200 of my clients have gotten hired in tech, and most of them did not apply to the job. That's the truth. I've only actually suggested applying to the role for the last 2 years or so because the market has been a little bit tougher and the feedback has been for folks to apply. But most of the job seekers I've worked with have never applied to a job, but they still landed high paying tech jobs. Today, I want to go over how you should set up your job search strategy so you are a most placeable candidate, running a sales pipeline that is continuously giving you interviews, and how to strategically position yourself so you can consistently have high leverage in your job search and hopefully land multiple offers. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie. I'm a job search coach for folks in tech, and I help people get jobs through a methodology that I have taught for many years now that is basically a sales and marketing campaign. That's what a job search is. If you don't realize that yet, you will get to understand it as I go through the system that I'm going to teach you today. So I'm going to go through and teach you exactly what I teach my clients. So take a notebook out, take some notes, because you need to understand why you are not getting interviews and why you're not getting jobs, and shift to a more strategic job search. So we're all aware of the loop that happens that most job seekers are in. It's apply to a job, wait, get rejected, apply to a job, wait, get rejected, right? You apply online, you apply to through the portal, you apply on LinkedIn, wherever you're applying, and then you wait around. That's a really common way that people job search, and it's really ineffective and it takes a really long time. And most people are not building pipelines and strategically sort of having a funnel that they're going through, so they're and doing the actions that move the needle in your job search. In this video, I want to go over exactly how you need to make some changes. So number one, think about your job search like a pipeline or like a funnel. Like funnel, there's the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel. You need to continuously fill the top of that funnel so you have trickle down and you have interviews coming down the pipeline even as you start interviewing, because that's how you position yourself as a high value candidate, because you're basically putting yourself into the market, positioning yourself so the companies know that you're going to land soon. And the way to do that is to continuously build leverage at every single point in the job search process. So one way to do that, one of the easiest way, is to continuously have interviews coming down your pipeline on your funnel. There's many advantages to that. Number one is that you increase your interview skills because you're interviewing a lot. You will definitely get rejected. Even in my process, I always tell this to people. Rejection is just a part of the job search. You just shouldn't take it personally. It's going to happen, but you should learn from it as quickly as possible. So once you get into those recruiter calls, you should start mastering your initial tell me about yourself pitch. You should start understanding, what are the recruiters ask me? What are the hiring managers ask me? What kind of assignments are they asking for me to do? What are peers asking me? What are leadership questions that I get from cross-functional leaders? And each time you go through those interview stages, you should improve so quickly that if you have an interview in the morning at 9 a.m. and you have another one at 1 p.m., let's say you get off the 9 a.m. call and you reflect and you think, okay, I didn't answer this one question really well, or I've never even heard of this question, so let me have an answer. You should have an answer by 1 p.m. by your next interview. You should always reflect and almost like an athlete and think through, okay, what did I do well? What can I improve? And incrementally improve. And you do that by continuously applying. And I'll get into how you should apply, because you shouldn't just apply blindly. I don't suggest using, these mass apply tools right now. I suggest being really strategic, targeted, and continuously filling your pipeline. So as I mentioned, job searching is a sales process. You need to understand how to convert in interviews and how to then convert through the interviews to get offers. And the first part, you have to first have a strong resume, strong LinkedIn. Those are your marketing materials. Those are the things that will hopefully get you into an interview, in addition to strategically reaching out to hiring managers. Now, this is the piece that most people do not do. Most people, if they do any outreach, they try and do it for referral, which is not bad, but and I suggest doing that as well, if you have a strong network, or they do it to recruiters. Now, recruiters are getting most of the outreach, and they are not the decision maker. You want to reach out to the decision maker, which is the person who will be your direct boss likely. So you want to do high volume outreach to hiring managers. Now, in my community, Job Searcher S, I have a 3 email sequence that I give to my clients, and that you just want to template it out. Go find the hiring manager on LinkedIn right after you apply to the job, find their email, which I have a list of tools of how to do that, and then send the email template. That is how you get more interviews. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, most of my clients never even applied to the jobs. Back in the day, I've been doing this for a long time. for the past 8 years or so. And for the first, I would say, 6 years of me helping clients, that was the only thing they did. They only emailed hiring managers, and that's how they got jobs. Because it's very compelling. Hiring managers, if they're hiring, they have a pain point. They need someone fast and they need a qualified person. So if you're raising your hand and you're entering into their inbox and saying, I'm qualified and I'm interested, then you're making their life easier. So that's how you have to think about it. So you want to do targeted branding on your resume, LinkedIn, targeted outreach to hiring managers, and follow up is super, super key. You don't want to just send one message and then never again. You want to do follow up. It's super important. And then you want to get into interviews. And once you're in interviews, you have to master the interview process at every stage. Now, it's important that you are doing this consistently at high volume. This is the other key. So a lot of job seekers, they do five and they apply to 5 jobs, wait around. That's a lottery. That's not a job search. You apply to 1 per week, 5 per week. That's not enough. You have to, especially in the beginning of your job search, you want to basically put yourself into the market as much as possible just to understand what the market is saying about your profile. Now, I suggest high volume for a couple of reasons. One, it gives you that the consistent data points about what's working, where do I need to tweak things, what kind of companies are wanting to interview me, and then refine it from there. Now, your profile might be strong enough that you can convert into interviews at 15 to 20 outreach points or applications, but you don't know that until you start doing it. I would say most people, even with really strong profiles, if you want a job really fast, try to hit at least 15 applications and outreach emails to hiring managers per week, at least, because that gives you that consistent momentum. Because as we know, so much can happen in a job search. You could get all the way to the end and not get the offer. You could get consistently to the hiring manager call or consistently to the recruiter call and not move forward. Now, that's all worth tracking, which is this another piece. You need to track all of this in a job search tracker, which in my community, there's a one that I give you. It allows you to track everything from who you're reaching out to, when, the notes, the company, etc. It's so, so important to be data driven because we can be so emotional about the job search and you want to understand what's happening, especially in high volume. You'll be applying to so many, if you do this process, you'll be applying to so many companies that sometimes they take 2 weeks to get back to you. You won't even remember. But if you go into your tracker and you say, oh, yeah, it's this company, this is the title, here's the job link, and here's the person I reached out to, then you'll remember. And it also gives you just, again, that data to understand, where am I converting? Let me double down on that. This is the kind of company that's converting. These are the channels that are working. Email, is working the best, or LinkedIn is another channel I can use to reach out to people. So you want to really be data driven and not necessarily emotional driven, even though the job search is that emotional roller coaster, and that part will be part of it, but you want to compress your time to an offer as quickly as possible. Another thing I want to talk about is the most placeable candidate, MPC framework. This is where you need to get really good at interviewing and your narrative. Now, if you interview a lot, you will get better at this naturally. If you're constantly interviewing, you will start understanding, especially if you're tracking where you are and how far you're getting in the job search, you'll start understanding where your strengths are in terms of interviewing. The most placeable candidate is a framework that recruiters use to basically score how easy it is to place you. Now, if you think about it as a job seeker, you will think about, okay, I mean, it's sort of a short-term and a long-term thing to think about. Long-term is, where am I working? What's my career branding? All of that. And how easy is it to place me? Also, just your interview skills. What's your narrative like? Can you answer the most common questions? Do you have a story? Do you have a bank of stories that you can pull from? And can you easily deliver those in a star format? Do you know how to exude executive presence? Do you know how to be concise? Do you know how to storytell? Those are the 3 most important things in interviewing. Those are all really important, in addition to having that strong leveraged pipeline where you have options. You want to always have options. And ideally, you want to have multiple offers that you can leverage against each other so you can then negotiate and get the one you want. I'm working with a client right now in my community who's in that exact position. She pulled the trigger, she got an offer. I said, okay, tell this other company that's your number one. And I told her exactly what to say. And now she's in this leveraged position where she's negotiating with one who really wants her, and also told the other company so they can speed up. That's the sweet spot. And this is after she had 2 to 4 interviews every single week because she was executing on that high volume direct outreach, and where she was getting to 4 final stage interviews because of this. One didn't work out. She got an offer from one. She's waiting on another. And I think another one more has one more stage. So That's exactly the position you want to be in. The other thing about being a most placeable candidate is having a strong personal brand, so you easily can get into interviews. That's again in the very beginning, and that's something I review with folks in my community right away. The very first step is to get a strong resume, just one or two versions, not a million. You got to pick your role. You got to pick a targeted lane. Brand yourself clearly on resume, on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is likely the place people will see you first. So it's super important that you have a strong, clear, branded LinkedIn where people understand within seconds who you are and where you're trying to go. So that's also super important to set up before you even start searching. So let me just quickly review. Number one, break the loop of just applying to a few jobs per week and then waiting around. That's not going to work. You have to add in prospecting. You have to add in high volume prospecting. So, if you want the templates, just come join my community. And if you want this whole system written out for you that you can follow step by step, come join my community. But you want to set up a strong resume, strong LinkedIn. Then you want to have a tracker where you're tracking your 20 to 30 jobs per week. You want to have the outreach to direct to hiring managers that you do every single week. You want to do the follow-ups, and then you want to get good at interviewing. So build that pipeline, do direct outreach, become the most placeable candidate by getting really good at interviewing, and then do this in high volume so you can understand the data points that are coming in. You want to track everything you're doing, all the jobs you're applying to. You also want to track every single week how far you're getting. So that's another tab in my job search tracker where you can see the zoomed out data analytics of how many top of funnel outreach emails did you send. That's usually, if I look at someone's tracker, I can usually tell based on their just top of funnel how long it's going to take them to get a job. I have done this long enough that I can tell, because your top of funnel, everything you do today is going to impact you the next 2 to 3 weeks. If you're not doing an outreach or follow up today, you're not going to get a job, minimum at least for a month from today. So everything you're doing today impacts you 1 to 2 weeks out. And if you're not doing high volume, you're not going to have interviews, and that's going to push out the offer date, etc. So high numbers is super important. That's the whole strategy, basically. And as I mentioned, most of my clients have only done this to land really high paying jobs at Amazon, at Meta, at Etsy, at Sequoia, all these really well-known places. Because as I said, you're solving a pain point for hiring managers if you're reaching out to them. Now, if you want more details, if you want this all broken down and support, if you want my support on the day-to-day job search, you should join my community, Job Search OS. There's a link in the description. If you want just tips, definitely subscribe to this channel. I'm producing more and more content around what you should be doing in your job search to have faster success. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in the community.